Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the 60 Plus Racing Adventures here at Las Vegas. We are a little bit late coming into this one, so we do apologize for that one. However, pace car is already underway here in this particular event. We'll have a look at the starting grid here in just a couple of moments' time. We can have a look, of course, at this circuit. You know, we're getting towards that sort. Well, the season is definitely very much underway at this stage. It's David Despereaux currently in the pole position for this one. Mike Grandy will start in second place with Bruce Poole there in third. Then you got John Kreidler and Randy Shoemake with David Traynor, JC Hay, Douglas Beasley, Joe Canellis, Jerry Kerr, Craig Vaught, Dave Watson, Gene Moore, Greg Pedersen and Eugene Clark all rounding out the rest of the field, as we are still under the pace car here, just about to get ourselves set for this initial race of this evening. We're glad you're able to join us. Let's see what this race has to offer here in this one, as the car has pulled down on towards the safety of pit lane. Field now under the control of Despereaux, as we'll go green flag racing here at Las Vegas. First lap of this initial 25-lap race completed. Mike Grandy holding the race lead very, very well for now after a pretty good restart. These 15 cars racing around the banked oval here, as we see Bruce Poole currently in fourth place, having to deal with a little bit of an attack from David Traynor in behind. Meanwhile, we do have an attempted swap for position a little bit further up the field there, as John Kreidler trying to get past Despereaux here, as he's been able to do so in that sort of situation. So not been the best to start from your initial race leader, as Grandy attempts to pull away at this stage. 2.5 tenths of a second at the moment. Pretty good going. Side-by-side battle between Bruce Poole and David Traynor once again. The 57 and the 18. A little bit of fanning out there further back through the field as well. Douglas Beasley, Randy Shoemake also getting involved with each other at this stage as well. Three washes up the track slightly. No contact made between the two of them now as they head their way across the line. Beasley still continuing this fight down on that inside line. Let's see if he's able to make good progress down there, as these guys gone side by side for about a lap. Again, washing up the circuit is the 3. Had to provoke a reaction out of the 9 on that top side, as they'll continue this battle in and through turns 3 and 4 here. JC Hay and Joe Candelas are cars in behind this one as well. Looks like they're sizing up for a battle. Jerry Kerr looking to get involved there in the background, as he's just about able to get a nose in underneath the 078 car on the way through on this 5th lap of 25. You can see the Beasley battle with the 3 of Randy Shoemake still continuing to rage on. The rest of the field pretty much all single filed out, especially towards the very front of the field, but this battle between these two continuing on at this stage, and well, it seems like they're just losing a little bit of time here and there by running in that configuration to the 57 and 38 ahead, and actually this might drop them back into the clutches of JC Hay and Joe Canellis here as well. We've got so let's see if Canellis can get the run coming out towards turn 2, then having to put JC Hay on the defensive into there. Again, having to run that slightly compromised line as we're onto the floodlights here at Las Vegas. But everyone getting themselves all strung out single file now after those initial couple of laps of battling. It's fantastic to see these drivers get up in each other's faces. There might be only 15 of them on circuit, but certainly no shortage of action in the opening couple of laps here of this one. This one's going to fly by, let me tell you that, before we get into our second race, as we see Joe Candelas again sending it down the inside of JC Hay. A big authoritative move here in this situation. You kind of have to go. There's only a handful of laps in this initial race, so that's why you have to put pedal to the metal pretty much immediately. Down the inside, JC Hay once again. The lane is still open. You see some cars start to creep up the circuit here as Candelas again unable to get any sort of momentum down on that inside there. Is looking further forward though, Randy Shoemake down the inside of Douglas Beasley. That's the number 9. Washed up the circuit once again here, but it seems like drivers, when they're able to get down towards that inside line, it looks like the possibility is open there. You can get alongside, but it doesn't look like the pass is very easy to complete down there. As Shoemaker again continuing to keep at this. He's gaining bits of momentum here and there. He's just about getting there, but this might have to be a protracted multi-lap side-by-side battle for him to really make any sort of progress, as again he's just not quite going to get that run out of turn 4. That's the benefit of being the high side coming out of there, is that you get that big old run down in towards turn number 1. A big fan out 3 wide, potentially a little bit further up as well. Desperois battling with Bruce Poole. Then you've got David Traynor as they all stack up here. They all get in each other's faces, and here we go. A big cluster on the way down in towards turn number 3. Douglas Beasley, Randy Shoemake. Shoemake on the outside trying to make some good progress now. He's tried the inside, now the outside, as Joe Candelas looks to get up underneath him. So 2 by 2 as we're heading our way across the start-finish line there. Beasley still to the inside of Desperois here, who's continued to slide back over the course of this race. Doesn't seem like his race pace is really as good as what his qualifying effort suggested. So he's falling back through the field here, but it's a bit of a swarm of angry bees in behind, as Randy Shoemake again attempting to go the long way around, but again can't quite get past Candelas here. And of course he has that looming opportunity of Desperois falling back into his clutches, as well as there's a little bit of a dooring as Shoemake's up into the fence there. Oh, he's not going to be too happy about that one. Jerry Kerr down the inside of JC Hay in the background as well, and he gets to the inside of Shoemake as well. So Shoemake's significantly slowed down due to that contact. He's probably got to be careful with a little bit of damage on the car in that situation. And yeah, I think that damage perhaps a little bit too terminal, as he'll peel his way down on towards pit lane. Oh, get it stopped, Randy, as he'll drop back to the end now and have to come down and in. There's no meatball flag in terms of that one, but he's going to come down in for a stop to try and sort it regardless. It has allowed the front 2 to get away quite well. Mike Grandy and John Kreidler have really been keeping themselves out of trouble, getting themselves ahead and making sure that they're able to take at least a P1 and a P2 in this situation. Of course, further in the behind, the battles are still raging. So it's Bruce Poole and David Traynor going wheel to wheel. Seems like that line moving all over the place at this stage. We had a period of drivers running in a little bit higher than we were seeing them at the start of the race, and now they're again returning back towards that low line. Of course, Poole running more of a middle line here at this stage, but you can see the run that Traynor got off the corner there. Pretty impressive stuff indeed. Couple of changes for position in the background then, as again, even though there are so few cars, it seems like drivers are really wanting to go at it, as we see Douglas Beasley pull down to the inside, coming down the back straight there, and he's going to take the tow back towards pit lane. I'm not entirely sure what has happened there to the number 9, but he's decided that this race is no longer for him, as we are well over well over the halfway stage of this race at the moment. And well, it seems to be a tale of 2 races. It's the guys at the front, Grandy and Kreidler, running together, and then the battle for the final podium position. Bruce Poole and David Traynor involved in that one as well. We kind of split up into sort of pairs of little battling pairs here. Seems to be the situation here in this first race. As I get to introduce another name, another voice into the commentary booth, and that one is of Joshua Lee.
Glad to be joining you, Connery, for the last, 9 laps of this race. But you just mentioned tale of two races. I mean, you got Grandy and Kreidler at the front, half-second separating those two. But then you got this pocket we're watching right here with Poole and Traynor side by side off of turn 4. The 38 gets a good run. And at Las Vegas, you do have those multiple lines you can use. You got the outside, you got the inside, and the 38 using the inside to his advantage in his Mobil 1 Ford Mustang. He'll move his way into P3.
Absolutely making some very good progress indeed in this race, as they'll continue on this battle in towards 3. Of course, Poole getting himself towards the inside. The theme that we've seen over the course of this race so far is that, yes, you can get to the inside, but completing a pass on the inside is a little bit of a different issue.
And you can see that contact that was made off of turn number 4. I mean, these next-gen cars especially, they race a lot differently on the intermediates than some of the former cars. They almost stay a little bit more planted. And, of course, the higher downforce NASCAR Cup Series machines that we saw a couple of years ago, I mean, they were glued to the racetrack. But these things are a little bit harder to get upset, but they do push up the track a lot more. So you can see the 38 go back to the bottom and the 57 trying to stay up on the top side and moved his way into the 38th race line to try and gain back a little bit more time. But all that side by side and that little bit of contact up at turn 4 has opened the door for the 078 of Canellis to work his way into this group. And we suddenly now, Connery, have a battle for third within about a half second.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple more participants in this one. Yes, the front 2 have run for the hills and said goodbye to everyone behind them, but still some good fighting back here with coming up to 5 laps to go. It's definitely going to be an interesting one, especially if those gaps continue to close in and amongst this group. But I can say, well, they're not really closing in between Traynor and Poole at the moment, because Traynor has gained quite a bit of time on that last lap, a couple of tenths of a second, which is a lot in these sets of circumstances. And now John Candelas maybe sensing blood in the water in a sense, maybe sensing that Poole is not quite on the pace compared to the car further down the road, and it might be an easy picking for 4th, but we'll have to wait and see.
He looked high, but there goes the 57 washing his way up the racetrack, and that opens the door for the 078 to the inside to use the crossover move. Very famous move within NASCAR at intermediates. The 57 came up the racetrack. The 078 had more room on the bottom. He lifted off a little bit, slammed that loud pedal to the inside, and was able to get that move done off of 4. Wondering if Poole, maybe a bit of tire wear. It is a 22-lap race, or 22 laps completed so far out of 25, which is not a lot, but Las Vegas notorious for tire wear and those tires getting eaten up, especially if you're pushing. And I think the 57 does have a bit of wear on those Goodyear tires, and will fall back a little bit further from Canellis, who now has a bit of open racetrack in front of him as the 38 a Traynor trying to catch the top 2 of Grandy and Kreidler. But with 3 to go, make it 2 to go, and they come across the start-finish line. That gap towards the race lead is not closing with Traynor, and it's not really closing with Kreidler either. Still about 3 tenths separating these two.
Yeah, absolutely. That's that number 12 looking pretty good at this stage, pretty comfortable. 3.5 tenths of a second gap coming on to the final laps of the race. As long as that doesn't close in anytime soon, he should be home and dry. But we do have to be careful about saying things so prematurely. In terms of battles further down, though, battle for P6 might still be on. In fact, battle for 7th, 8th, 9th as well might be a big contentious issue coming to the end.
Gaggle of 4 cars back here from 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. There's the move to the inside for 8th as the 76 of Desperos on the inside. Gonna move Kerr up the racetrack as we take the white flag. It's Grandy in the number 12 in the lead.
It really is down onto the apron as well, using all the track available to you as that 76 dives down and in. Kerr getting trapped on the high side just a little bit there, maybe overcommitting to the corner, but having a look ahead though, it is the number 12 of Mike Grandy who will come out of turn 4 and across the line to take the win in the first race here at Vegas. Meanwhile, who's gonna be sorted out in the mid-pack though? We have Craig Vaught involved over Desperois. The Desperois and Kerr are going to be neck and neck to the line, a quarter of a car length in it, and I think Desperois will get it. Yes, he will. but a little bit of a chaotic finish there in and amongst the mid-pack of things. Some fantastic racing over 25 laps with all of these drivers involved.
Some great racing in the mid-pack and a great finish there in the mid-pack with the photo finish coming to the line. But Grandy with the win over Kreidler, fastest lap as well on that number 12. What a dominating night.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic stuff in this sort of situation. It's, it being thrown into a sprint race like this, it's like I said earlier on, it's pedal to the metal from the get-go when you're in this sort of situation, and some drivers really struggle with dealing with it more than others. But yeah, fantastic stuff indeed. We can get ourselves a little bit of a look in the race at the race results here in just a moment's time. But yeah, absolutely, it has been an absolutely intriguing race, and it really sort of previews what's to come potentially. But let's have a look at the race results then. It's Mike Grandy taking the race win by almost half a second back to John Kreidler. Then you've got David Traynor in third, Joe Canellis in fourth with Bruce Poole in fifth, JC Hay in sixth with Craig Vaught in seventh, Desperos in P8 with Jerry Kerr in ninth, and Eugene Clark will round out the top 10. Second page of the results, Dave Watson takes P11 with Rick Peterson in P12. Then you got Gene Moore in P13 with Douglas Beasley in P14 and Randy Shoemake in P15. Those latter two taking retirements in this race. Randy Shoemake getting up and put it into the wall and around about the middle of the race, and Douglas Beasley pulling it towards the inside on the back straight and retiring the car for reasons we do not yet know. But in terms of that here at Vegas, well, that's the first race over and done with here, Josh. It was a fast and frenetic one, to say the least.
Yeah, only 25 laps. It is the definition of a sprint race, but Las Vegas, especially in a sprint race context, is very, very difficult to get right. With no pit stops, no strategy on the table. I mentioned that tire wear with those Goodyear tires over 25 laps. You're going to start to see the effects of tire wear after maybe 10, 15, especially if you're pushing, which is very easy to do with only 25 laps on the count. So from where these drivers started to where they ended, completely different race. And we saw that tire wear come into play with the battles in the mid-pack, especially with the group from 6th on through 9th that were all still very tight together, all very close on the tire wear they had close to the end of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. And, well, since we didn't quite get the chance to cover them at the very start of the race, here is the schedule for this particular season in the Next Gen series. Of course, we are round number 4 here at the moment, but these drivers will take a little bit of a tour. They will go to Dover, Lucas Oil, Atlanta, Rockingham, Pocono, Chicagoland, Darlington, and Iowa before we get to see ourselves crowned a champion. So we are still in the first half of the season, still yet more stories to be told, of course, in this one. And, well, let's see what the story is so far with regards to our points. Of course, this is not including the races that the race that we just had. And, in fact, we will just get ourselves refreshed in terms of that one here in a second, as we showed the road points and not the and not the oval points. There we go. Those are the oval points, as Mike Grandy, of course, leading those standings at the moment. So he's only going to extend his advantage here out of that first race. We'll have to see what the second race has to offer, but either way, Mike Grandy in a pretty good spot at the moment, with David Traynor in second place and Douglas Beasley in third. Those two, well, 3 points separated coming into today, so that's going to be one to look out for the rest of the season, potentially. Then you got Gene Moore and Bruce Poole rounding out the top 5 in points, then John Hay, Rick Peterson, then Wally Morsby, who I don't believe is here today. We got Russ Addy, then Thomas Spyram, Jack Turner, Dave Watson, rounding up the top 12 in points at this very early stage here, Josh. But like I said, you can have a good run early on in the season, but if you have, if you start to stumble, you start to make mistakes a little bit later on, then all of a sudden those guys right behind you, well, they're going to be looking optimistic about getting those points over you and getting towards that championship.
And Mike Grandy with the win tonight in Las Vegas is going to extend that points lead by a solid margin. Remember David Traynor finishing, I believe, third or fourth. He finishes well off of Mike Grandy, both on the track and in terms of position. But Grandy so far this season, top point scorer at Phoenix and Michigan the last 2 rounds. Wasn't the top point scorer at Kansas, but that was only by grand total of 6 points. So he has been maximizing all the points he could possibly get. And about halfway through this season, Dover coming up next, the Lucas Oil Raceway in Indianapolis, Atlanta, Rockingham, Pocono, Chicagoland, Darlington, and Iowa to round out the season. Got a lot more opportunities to gain more points, but Traynor, Beasley, Moore, Poole, they've all got opportunities to try and catch back up. All those drivers within this top, all the way down the top 10. Thomas Byram have competed in every race so far this season. Consistency being key for Mike Grandy so far. Let's see what Traynor, Beasley, and Moore and the rest of this top 10 have for the rest of the year.
Yeah, absolutely, and well, of course, as is the current case here. Of course, it was it's a fast and frenetic series. It's a fast and frenetic race. You have absolutely no pit stop strategy in terms of this one. So it's going to be. Really, did you really like to see that sort of series, Joshua, where the strategy is completely taken out of it? It's just the fastest driver on the day that gets the W?
I mean, it's a different type of race. I mean, you've got the strategy with the longer races. I go back to the Real Sim Racing Full Throttle Cup Series that is broadcasted most Mondays here on RaceSpotTV that I'm a part of the production team for. And I mean, you see half distance of the full NASCAR Cup Series races. So you get at least 1 pit stop, sometimes even 2. And that really changes exactly how the race goes. With no strategy, with no pit stops or anything like that, you just have the sprint to the end. But that also then provides a different level of it. I mentioned the tire wear. I mentioned burning your stuff up. Very easy to do with no pit stop on the horizon and only 25 laps on the counter. So you've got that side of it. But then you have the pit stop side, pit stop mistakes, making a strategy. You got to hit that strategy right if you want to get to victory lane. You've also got the undercuts and the overcuts. So you've got kind of that sprint racing element of, you have to be fast. You have to be fast over a short amount of time. And then you have the strategy element in the longer term races that really provides an entirely different level of the action.
And we do have to reiterate, of course, these little sprint practice races. They're not really they're not worth the points, shall we say? Of course, we get into later on where we have our 90-lap event coming up. So that's where the points are going to be scored. So yes, we have these very quick practice races to get as a little bit of a palate cleanser, to try and set ourselves up for these longer events, but this is going to be the interesting thing now, is like, how do we convert potentially a sprint race performance? You can treat these initial races as a sprint race, right? How do we convert that into a good performance over the 90 laps that we have to run instead of the 25 laps that we have just run? So that is going to be the interesting point for these guys. How much can you read into sprint race performances? I'm not exactly sure, but at least for Grandy, it's going to be a fantastic opportunity for him to show what he's made of, saying, okay, I'm the fastest over a short distance. Whether or not the strategy is going to affect things once we do get into that longer, proper quote-unquote race, then that is a different issue. But what is going to be an issue, however, Joshua, is the fact that we have a little bit of a situation here, because iRacing is meant to go down for maintenance in a little while. So we haven't had any communication from race control or the organizers here at the moment as regards to what is happening with that. It might just be that we get a bit more of extended delay than usual, or this race might get scheduled, but I don't want to speak any further on that until we actually know what is happening. Obviously, it's a tricky situation, Joshua. You never really know when iRacing is going to drop these emergency updates, so therefore that might be the situation that we're in right now.
Yeah, pretty much emergency downtime for this afternoon. Going up at 2:30. Haven't seen another session go up just yet from race control, but like you mentioned, Connor, I also haven't heard any official word, but it looks like we have a couple of drivers joining us here in the RaceSpotTV team speak. Mike Grandy and Randy Shoemake want to be dragged into the broadcast booth, so maybe they've got a little bit more information than we've got on both scenarios.
One disappeared already. We'll get Randy in there. So while we're waiting for what the situation may be, we might just get ourselves an opportunity, if he's okay with it, to have a little bit of a conversation with Randy Shoemake. Of course, we had that mini palette cleanser.
I don't see you in my...
Hello. We had that little palette cleanser of a sprint race. But yeah, Randy, do we have any idea what's going to be going on with the iRacing downtime? Apparently we're not. We won't be able to reach Randy here just for a moment, but hopefully we'll get news very, very soon, Josh.
We've got Mike Grandy now back in the lobby. You might be able to grab him and see if he's got any answers for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll actually message him first and then see if he wants to pop up and explain what's going on. But yeah, idea. This is the situation we find ourselves in sometimes. You know, it happens in real life racing. Just imagine there's a rain delay and we're having to wait a little bit for the track to dry, right?
This is the iRacing equivalent. Well, okay, I can't say the iRacing equivalent of rain anymore because, I mean, iRacing now has rain, but it is the iRacing version of rain downtime. Obviously, there's no downtime with the road racing that has rain enabled. We haven't gotten the ability to do rain and NASCAR Cup Series machines or rain and rain delays and red flags. That would be a very, very interesting layer for leagues if we had rain downtime in the sim. And then just random rain pops in, you get a red flag. Obviously, it like speeds through the red flag, but you go from like afternoon racing into like a night race under the lights. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, it would be absolutely interesting, but I'm just sort of imagining that, you know, if NASCAR was a little bit more flexible with the weather, right? You know, maybe they make a compounder tire that is good for racing on ovals, but also in the rain. You know, that would be an interesting prospect, right?
I mean, what we saw on Sunday night in the real world NASCAR Cup Series race and at the Richmond Raceway, that they started on rain tires. Well, wet weather tires, not technically rain. They won't race with rain physically coming down, but a damp, wet racetrack. They did start the race, ran for, I think, 30 laps, and then brought everybody down for a non-competition pit stop to put the dry tires back on. So, I mean, we're getting there a little bit on the real world, slowly but surely, getting some rain racing on ovals, especially with the NASCAR Cup Series machines most recently, NASCAR Truck Series machines, I believe last year at the Martinsville Speedway. So we're getting a little bit, but we haven't seen a whole lot of rain racing in the real world yet with NASCAR. But I think we're very slowly but surely getting to that point.
I mean, there does exist a rain compound, right? But like you said, it doesn't necessarily get that much use, even if it is raining on a road course. So yeah, maybe there is an avenue to try and get more racing going when the heavens do open, so to speak. Of course, you know, being European, I'm used to you know, races going on in any sort of weather, you know. So that might be something that will be good to look at. But of course, you know, with iRacing, with the weather system, you know, it's brought a whole new element to that side of things, and well, you know, in your personal experience, Joshua, have you seen the current weather system sort of affecting ovals as well? Because yes, we don't have rain on the ovals. That's not a thing that can happen. However, is the whole sort of dynamic cloud cover a consideration for the drivers now, or is it kind of the status quo being maintained?
I hadn't thought about that, but it definitely has been affecting recent races on the ovals. I mean, it feels Like the original dynamic weather was dynamic to a point, but there was no prediction of what it was going to do. I mean, you'd get maybe like cloud cover at one point and then it would just go back to clear and pretty quickly. But it does feel like now, yes, it's not rain and rain weather systems, but it does feel like a little bit more dynamic in terms of the cloud cover, a little bit more dynamic in terms of the temperatures that the track, heats up to and cools down to. They can also see the future weather now, so they know which way the dynamic weather is going to go. Because all of that same prediction for the rain, where it's, hard rain, heavy rain, light rain, rain on the way. You don't get the radar for the cloud cover, but you do get all that same breakdown of, this timestamp, this weather, this timestamp, this weather. And of course, it is a prediction of what is going to happen with that weather, but you do get that now. So for the spotters and the crew chiefs and of course the esports competitions, but also the drivers that are in the cars, they get a little bit more sense of what the weather is going to do. They can plan a little bit more and maybe even make adjustments ahead of time, so when the track cools down, gets a little bit more grip, cars might become a little bit tighter, have more understeer, they can make adjustments before the weather even hits.
Yeah, absolutely. That could be very important. And I just imagine in big races, in particular in the Indy 500, for example, where track temperature really is quite sensitive in terms of how it affects the car. So that could be a very, very interesting situation there, where you get a better idea of when the weather's going to turn. Now, maybe even a slight variation in track temperature here and there might also affect things. So I guess we don't necessarily need the rain part of the dynamic weather system for it to actually affect all racing.
No, I think the rain part of the entire iRacing weather system is kind of the star. It's kind of that main thing that came with the weather system, but it was a overhaul of the entire system, and it just happened to add rain. So you do get all that same dynamic weather and all the same real-world weather patterns that you get. I think one of the biggest things is when you set up a session, you can predict that weather out for multiple hours, and it is realistic to the weather of where the racetrack is. So if you were to set up a session here at Las Vegas, for example, on the in an afternoon race setting, of course it's going to be most likely sunny. It's going to be most likely hot. Not going to have a lot of cloud cover, but once you get into the evening, it's going to be cold. It's going to be not humid. You're going to have all of that heat that was in the air at the beginning of the afternoon all completely gone. And I've been to Vegas a couple of times, and you feel it. When it's the afternoon, it is hot. Sun is blaring down, and then it gets about 6, 7 o'clock. Sun goes away, and you got to put on long pants. You got to put on a hoodie. You got to put on a jacket. You get cold. So it's all the same thing with the iRacing weather system. When you do that dynamic weather, that prediction weather that you can do when setting up the race session for leagues, hosted, AI even, you get all of that same advantage. Just no wet weather, no rain, but you do get all the same things.
I'm just imagining any sort of hot weather and how, since I'm British, I just can't deal with it, right? Just the scorching sun. I'll probably be sunburned within like 5 minutes if I went to Vegas in the middle of summer. That's for sure. But yeah, it's that's just the situation the drivers will have to have sometimes. Hot weather, cold weather. You need to be able to adapt to the given situation. We are still currently trying to find out what the situation is with iRacing potentially coming down for an update, and whether or not this our main sort of event of this 90-lap race will actually go ahead or not. But we are working diligently to try and find the information for you. But yeah, it's these sorts of things happen in real life. It's good to see it reflected, at least in the simulator. But as someone who's been out of the over-racing game for a while at this point, Joshua, how's the recent updates been to the iRacing tire model, at least for these NASCAR machines? I used to be racing back in 2017, 2018 was back when I did a lot of over racing. Got to about 4.2k iRating, did NIS and things like that. But I've kind of been out of the loop. So what's been going on?
I mean, we did have a good bit of oval overhaul in this last big season update, and it has helped a little bit more of the dynamic track, especially. I mean, we've seen in the past, that dynamic track was introduced and it's gotten, its own updates and its own kind of little tweaks here and there, where you really still had dominant lines. I mean, here at Vegas especially, that inside line was dominant. It was almost like an old school Bristol where everybody was fighting for the inside line, and you could make moves on the outside, but you were really requiring a driver on the inside to then make a mistake for you to take advantage of. However, now, with the oval overhaul, I mean, I have seen, of course, a lot of the fast drivers that have these tracks figured out. I mean, they'll run the bottom to start the run, then tires start to heat up, track starts to heat up. They go up to the top of the racetrack to find a little bit more grip in the colder section of the track. Then they gain that grip. That part of the track heats up. Then they got to move to find more grip. I mean, it really is now a true dynamic track where you have to search for those grips like you see these drivers doing in the real world. And we saw it in that little 25-lap sprint race that we just had with the drivers using those multiple lines, top side, bottom side, both lanes working. So it's not really a dominant line anymore. It's wherever you feel comfortable, wherever you feel fast, wherever you have grip, you're going to make it work.
And it's actually quite impressive that we had that with, what, 15 cars? You know, so imagine with it with 30, 40, you know, so that line's going to be moving around constantly as things heat up and the best line changes throughout the race depending on the conditions. So it's good to hear that everyone is at least a bit happy about how the system is at the moment, and hopefully it can go from strength to strength. But of course, you know, we're still waiting for news. I think for the moment, instead of us blabbering on about random topics, I think it may just be best just for us to go to a little bit of a hold screen at the moment, and we'll be back as soon as we know and as soon as we have news about the upcoming race. So we'll see you in a bit. Well, hello everyone. I have some news. Of course, the iRacing downtime will, of course, go ahead as is normal. We still are not sure what's going to happen with the race, whether or not it'll be rescheduled for a certain time today or a different day entirely. But we're going to stick around at least for a little bit. You might see the stream go off. However, the broadcast will not go away. So it will be the same link, and we will start restreaming again once we have an opportunity to get you guys some racing action going. But either way, thank you very much for sticking with us, and hopefully we'll see you in a bit. Well, hello everyone, and well, I have unfortunate news because of the iRacing downtime, and with us having no idea of how long that will take. We will unfortunately call it a day here in the 60 Plus series. It's unfortunate, but these things do happen. Of course, we will be returning with this series at a future date, so you don't have to worry that you're missing out on your 60 Plus 60 Plus NASCAR action. But we will unfortunately have to call it a day here at Las Vegas. But of course, you know, it's not going to be the end of RaceSpot broadcast throughout this week. Of course, you know, we still have all of our other scheduled series running, and of course we will let you know when we return for 60 Plus Racing Adventures here in the Oval Series. But for now, from myself, Connery Maddock, and from Joshua Lee, we'll have to say goodbye.